Can you really trust a partner who still talks to their ex? Let me ask you something real quick. Would you be okay if your fiancé, your actual fiancé, invited their ex to your engagement party? And not just invited them, but gave them a front row seat right next to his parents, like they were still part of the family? Be honest. Type yes if you'd be cool with it, or no if that's crossing the line. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit the like button if you've ever been blindsided like this, and subscribe for more stories that'll hit you where it hurts. Because what happened next? It shocked everyone. The first time I saw the winery, I thought, wow, maybe this really is my fairy tale. Gabriel picked it out months ago. Napa Valley in spring. Rolling hills. Rose bushes. White chairs under string lights. It was perfect. Everything I'd dreamed of, down to the lavender champagne flutes and custom-printed napkins that said G+S forever. I wore a lavender satin gown that hugged my body just right. Loose curls. Simple earrings. I wasn't trying to steal the spotlight. I just wanted to feel like I mattered. But from the moment I stepped out of the car, something felt off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Maybe it was the way people looked at me like I was just another guest, not the bride-to-be. Or maybe it was the way Gabriel's sister barely said hi before brushing past me, muttering something about seating charts. Still, I smiled. Held my head high. I told myself it was just nerves. Then I walked up to the welcome table, white linens, gold calligraphy, name cards lined up like little soldiers, and looked for mine. Skylar and Gwyn. Table 9. I blinked. Table 9? That was near the back. Behind a support pillar. Near the restrooms. Family overflow, the tiny line beneath it said. What? I stood there staring, thinking maybe it was a mistake. I mean, I'm the one getting engaged today. Why wasn't I seated next to Gabriel? That's when I saw her. Brooklyn Peterson. Sitting right up front. Front row. Right next to Gabriel's mom, laughing like she belonged there. Like she was still part of the family. Her dress was emerald green, tight, flashy, the kind of dress that screams look at me. And people were looking. Gabriel's parents, his cousins, even the photographer kept drifting back to her like she was some kind of VIP. I stared for a second too long. She reached out and touched Gabriel's arm during the welcome toast, soft, casual, like they shared some inside joke. And Gabriel? He didn't pull away. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just that she was here. It was that everyone had made space for her. A front row seat. A seat that should have been mine. I turned to May Knapp, the planner Gabriel hired, sweet woman, always smiling through stress. Hey, I said, trying to stay calm. Why am I at table 9? May glanced at the clipboard like it was her shield. Oh, Gabriel's mom asked for that arrangement. Something about balancing out family groups. I thought you knew. Balancing? Was I a number now? An equation? I thanked her, even though I didn't mean it. Then I looked over again. Brooklyn was clinking glasses with Gabriel's dad. Gabriel leaned back, smiling, while I stood off to the side like a distant cousin who got an accidental invite. A few months ago, Gabriel swore they were just friends. That they talked every now and then, but it was nothing. Apparently, nothing gets a better seat than me. I took a shaky breath, still holding my card. Table 9. Family overflow. It was printed in gold. Elegant. Professional. Like someone had taken the time to decide that was exactly where I belonged. And suddenly, I didn't feel like this was my day anymore. It felt like I'd been cast as an extra in someone else's story. So I walked out. Out through the side doors, past the white chairs, down the stone steps into the vineyard garden. No one noticed. No one stopped me. And that's when I knew. This wasn't a mix-up. This was a message. And I heard it loud and clear. It's not cheating. But it sure ain't loyalty either. The courtyard was quiet, at least quieter than the laughter echoing from the tasting room behind me. I followed the stone path past rows of climbing jasmine and olive trees until I saw them, Gabriel, Samson Holloway, and Bowden Ollie. Gabriel had that same relaxed posture he always had around his friends. Jacket off, sleeves rolled up, champagne in hand like the world was his living room. He didn't even notice me until I stopped a few feet away. "Can I talk to you?" I asked. He turned, eyebrows raised. "Now?" "Yes. Now." Samson glanced at Bowden. "We'll give you two a minute," he muttered, and they drifted off, leaving us by the fountain. The water bubbling cheerfully between us like this was just another moment in paradise. I didn't waste time. "Why is Brooklyn seated in the front row?" I asked, voice low and tight. "Next to your mother?" Gabriel blinked like I'd asked something silly. "She's part of the group. She's always been around. And she helped with the guest list." I froze. "You let your ex plan our engagement party?" I said the words slowly, each one a step deeper into disbelief. Gabriel frowned. "She didn't plan the whole thing. She just made a few suggestions." I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He saw it all in my face. "Oh come on, Sky," he said, rolling his eyes. "Don't make this into some big thing. You're overreacting." Overreacting. There it was. The gaslight I never saw coming. The match lit right under my dignity. "So it's not a big thing," I said, blinking hard. "That she's front and center. That she gave the chef input. That she's touching your arm in front of everyone like she's still yours?" "She's a friend," he said sharply. "You're making this about the wrong thing." I laughed, soft, bitter. "Then help me out. What is the right thing?" He didn't answer. He just took another sip of champagne and looked away like he was bored. I walked away before I said something I couldn't take back. Or worse, cried in front of him. As I made my way past the floral arch, I saw her of Brooklyn, laughing with May again, nodding toward the bouquet table. She picked one up, sniffed it like it was hers to approve. I was halfway to the restroom to regroup when Araceli Terrell, my best friend, my maid of honor, stepped out from the side garden and grabbed my wrist gently. "Hey," she whispered, pulling me into the shade of the terrace. "Don't get mad. But I need to tell you something." My heart was already halfway shattered, but I braced for more. "Brooklyn was at the bridal tasting," she said quietly. "I didn't say anything because I thought it was one of those things Gabe didn't clear with you, but she told the chef you hate goat cheese." I blinked. "I don't hate goat cheese." "I know." Silence. "And the flower arrangements?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "She changed the colors last minute. Said it clashed with the winery walls." I stood there, still. Everything came back in waves. The time Gabriel said, "Brooklyn has good taste. She helped pick that color combo at her sister's wedding. You'd like her style." The time he insisted we go with peonies over orchids because peonies feel more classic. The time I mentioned wanting mini cheesecakes instead of a macaron tower and he said, "Let's not be too different." Every little decision, shaped by a ghost I never agreed to share my future with. My chest felt tight. I didn't know whether to scream or laugh. "You okay?" Araceli asked softly. I nodded, even though I wasn't. "Thank you for telling me." She hesitated. "I didn't know it was this deep." "Neither did I whispered. I returned to the table slowly. Table 9. Still there. Still waiting. The violinist started playing something soft, something romantic, but it felt like the music belonged to someone else. Like the whole celebration was happening on a stage where I was the understudy, not the star. I sat down, legs crossed, shoulders back, pretending to be composed. My glass was half full, but I'd never felt emptier. Around me, voices buzzed like bees in a garden, laughing, toasting, hugging. Brooklyn tossed her hair and leaned in close to Gabriel's mother again. I watched him raise a glass and laugh like this was the happiest night of his life. He hadn't even noticed I was gone. I reached under the table, hand trembling just slightly, and touched the engagement ring on my finger. Cold. Heavy. Suddenly foreign. I twisted it once. Then again. And then, quietly, with no fanfare, I slipped it off and laid it gently in my palm. Not to make a scene. Not yet. But just to remember what it felt like, to breathe without it. This was never about me. It was always about making her look good. I don't remember walking out of the reception tent. One moment, I was sitting at table 9, turning my engagement ring in my hand like it was someone else's jewelry. The next, I was back in the vineyard, drifting down a winding gravel path between rows of pinot vines and soft golden lights. The air smelled like wet earth and fresh-cut roses. You'd think it was romantic, but I felt nothing but cold. I stopped near a wooden arch wrapped in fairy lights. The sun had dipped low, painting everything in a warm haze that didn't match what I was feeling. And that's when it hit me, my birthday last year. Gabriel had said he was working late. I didn't question it. I never did. But now, I remembered something else, Brooklyn's Instagram post that night. A picture of a half-drunk wine glass and 2 shadows on a balcony. The caption? Old flames never really die. At the time, I'd told myself it was cryptic. Artsy. A little dramatic. Now, I wasn't so sure. I sank onto a bench beneath a fig tree, the sounds of laughter and clinking glasses drifting faintly from the estate. And then, Skylar? I turned. Jackson Bishop, Gabriel's cousin, stood a few steps away, hands in his pockets, expression twisted with guilt. He was the quiet one in the family, always watching, never speaking unless it mattered. I shouldn't be telling you this, he started, voice low, but I saw Gabriel leave Brooklyn's apartment 3 weeks ago. It was late. Like 2 a.m. late. My mouth went dry. Are you sure? He nodded once. I was picking up a friend from that building. I saw him. He saw me. We didn't talk. I stared at him, searching for doubt in his eyes. There wasn't any. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because I thought maybe it was a one-time thing. Maybe it didn't mean anything. But seeing how you've been treated tonight? How Brooklyn's sitting where you should be. I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I swallowed hard, nodding slowly. Thank you, I said. It was the only thing I could say without breaking. He walked away after that. No dramatic exit. No need to stay and watch the damage. I stood there frozen for a minute before heading back toward the garden where I knew Araceli had gone. I found her beside the dessert table, texting. I didn't waste time. Did you know? I asked, voice sharper than before. Did you know Gabriel was still seeing her? Araceli's eyes widened. No. Sky, I swear, no. But you knew she had influence. Over the tasting. The flowers. The damn seating chart. She looked away. I didn't want to believe it, she said quietly. But May told me. Gabriel gave Brooklyn full veto power over the guest list. I blinked. Excuse me? She said Gabriel told her Brooklyn knew his family best. That she'd help keep things smooth. I felt something inside me crack open. Not shatter. Just split, clean, quiet, permanent. So that was it. This wasn't a celebration. It was a cover story. A curated image. An engagement that looked beautiful on paper but felt like I was third-wheeling in my own relationship. That's when I heard a voice behind me. Skylar. I turned to see Celeste Rollins, Gabriel's aunt, the one who always seemed a little too observant at family dinners. She walked over slowly, heels crunching on gravel, an envelope in her hand. I wasn't sure if I should show you this, she said softly, but I think you deserve to see it. She handed me the envelope. Inside were a few sheets of printed emails. Not screenshots. Real emails. Names, dates, subjects. They were from Brooklyn Peterson. And the subject lines were all about me. We just need to soften Skylar's image so Gabriel's family doesn't regret anything. Make sure she doesn't wear something too flashy. We don't want her outshining the tone. She can't be too emotional in the toast. His parents don't like girls who cry too much. Each line punched harder than the last. She sent these to May, Celeste explained. May accidentally CC'd me when she forwarded the final seating plan. I stared at the pages, my own name used like a checklist item in a brand strategy. This isn't about love, I said quietly, it's about controlling the narrative. Celeste placed a hand on my shoulder. You deserve more than being someone's PR project. I looked up at her, heart pounding. How long have you known? I suspected for a while, she said. But I wanted to see if Gabriel would do the right thing. And? He didn't. I held the papers in both hands. Not shaking. Just still. And for the first time that night, I wasn't questioning myself. I wasn't wondering if I was being too sensitive or too jealous or too dramatic. I was done explaining my value in a room that kept pushing me to the back row. I took one deep breath and turned toward the glowing tent. Where are you going? Araceli asked behind me. To speak, I said. Not for a toast. Not for show. I'm just done being quiet. And I walked. Past the vines. Past the candles. Through the French doors, where music still played and people still laughed like everything was picture perfect. Only this time, I wasn't going to sit quietly at table 9. I wasn't here to play nice. I was here to be heard. When silence becomes a statement loud enough to shake a room. The inside of the reception tent was glowing with amber light and soft jazz. People were sipping wine, laughing in clusters, completely unaware that the woman in the lavender gown near the back had just set fire to everything, quietly, but deliberately. I stepped through the archway, the cool night air still clinging to my skin. My heels clicked softly across the stone tiles as I made my way toward the front, past the clink of champagne glasses and the scent of fresh peonies Brooklyn had probably picked. The jazz band finished their song, and the room quieted. A few people turned toward me, probably expecting a sentimental toast, something sweet and staged to keep the fairy tale alive. I walked up to the mic without waiting for an introduction. The spotlight hit me hard, like it was trying to push me back. But I didn't move. Hi, I said, my voice steady. First off, thank you all for coming tonight. A few polite claps. I smiled, just barely. I want to give a special thank you to the folks at table 9, right next to the coat rack and conveniently hidden behind a very large ficus plant. Some light chuckles from the crowd. A few exchanged looks, unsure of whether they were supposed to laugh. Gabriel, seated up front with his parents and Brooklyn, straightened in his chair. He didn't smile. Brooklyn crossed her legs slowly and reached for her wine. I paused for a moment. Tonight was supposed to be about commitment, I continued. About building a future with someone who sees you, really sees you. Who knows your voice without you having to raise it. Who protects you, even when you're not in the room. The guests were silent now. One of the waiters paused mid-pour. Araceli was standing by the dessert table, her hand covering her mouth. I took a breath. But what happens, I said slowly, when the person beside you forgets what those words mean? Gabriel shifted uncomfortably. Brooklyn glanced at him, but he didn't look back. See, I used to think I was just being sensitive. When choices were made without me, I told myself I was overthinking it. When voices got quieter when I entered a room, I told myself I was imagining things. But you can only ignore something for so long before it starts speaking louder than words ever could. I reached into the small clutch at my side and pulled out the folded papers Celeste had handed me, Brooklyn's emails, printed in black and white. I unfolded the first page and read, "We just need to soften Skylar's image so Gabriel's family doesn't regret anything." A ripple moved through the room like someone had dropped a stone in a still lake. Brooklyn's glass stopped midair. Gabriel's mother shifted in her chair. Murmurs buzzed softly. Gabriel stood up halfway. "Skylar, let's not," I held up a hand. He froze. I looked around the room. Some people looked stunned. Others uncomfortable. But most were just watching, listening. "I'm not here to make a scene," I said calmly. "I'm not here to embarrass anyone. And I'm definitely not here to compete with anyone." I looked directly at Brooklyn now. "I'm not fighting for a man who let someone else design our future," while I stood off to the side. Brooklyn blinked, visibly rattled. Gabriel looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm just done." And then, slowly, I took the engagement ring from my pocket. The one I had slipped off earlier, now cool against my palm. I stepped forward and placed it on the white linen table in front of Gabriel. The sound was soft, but in that quiet tent it felt like thunder. People were holding their breath. "I don't need a partner who sees me as optional," I said. "I'm not the backup plan. I'm not the placeholder. And I'm sure as hell not the shadow of someone's ex." I turned toward the crowd one last time. "You all came here for an engagement party," I said, voice strong but not angry. "So here it is, as me, finally engaged. Not to someone else. To myself. To my peace." And then I walked. No tears. No panic. Just silence trailing behind me like a veil I'd just taken off. I didn't look back. But I heard it. First, nothing. Then, the soft sound of a single clap. Then another. It was Celeste. Then Araceli. And slowly, a few others followed. I didn't need an ovation. Just that moment. That moment where the story changed. As I reached the exit, I heard footsteps behind me. I didn't turn, but I knew Brooklyn had run after Gabriel. Maybe to plead. Maybe to explain. And Araceli? She caught up to me outside beneath the lantern-lit awning. "You okay?" she asked. I smiled, finally letting the weight fall off my shoulders. Never better. Sometimes the healing begins where the noise ends. 1 week later, the world felt quieter. No spotlight. No music. No perfectly arranged florals pretending to hold a broken love together. Just me, Skylar and Gwyn. Sitting on the rooftop of my apartment in San Francisco, wrapped in a chunky sweater, barefoot, sipping tea that had gone lukewarm in my hands. It was early evening. The sun was sinking low over the bay, and the breeze smelled like salt, pine, and something like freedom. My phone buzzed again on the table beside me. Another missed call. Gabriel Rollins. That made 7 today. He'd left voicemails. Texted. Emailed. Once even called from his mom's phone like I wouldn't notice the trick. Every message sounded the same. "Can we talk?" "Let me explain." I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I didn't reply. Because here's the thing no one tells you, when you finally stop explaining yourself to people who never really listened, the silence isn't lonely, it's peaceful. That afternoon, a package had arrived at my door. No note at first. Just a crisp white box tied with a silver ribbon. Inside? A carefully arranged gift basket. handwritten journals, calming tea blends, a miniature orchid, and a leather passport holder. The note was tucked between the pages of a lavender notebook. Sometimes, silence is louder than confessions. I'm proud of you, Celeste. I smiled. Not the sad kind, the real kind. The kind that doesn't need witnesses. I picked up my phone, not to answer Gabriel, but to text Araceli. Skylar, booked a solo trip to Iceland. Skylar, time to chase my own light. A second later, the typing bubbles popped up. Araceli, YESSSS. You are glowing. Send me a pic of you with the northern lights or I'll riot. Skylar, deal. I pulled out my old photo album from the shelf near my desk. Not the digital kind. The real kind, worn leather edges, frayed spine, pages that smelled like childhood and heartbreak. Most pages were filled with memories I barely remembered anymore. Birthdays, school dances, road trips. But one photo stopped me cold. It was from the engagement party. Taken by a friend before everything unraveled. I was standing in the vineyard, just before sunset. Alone. The light caught the edge of my dress and made my hair glow like fire. I wasn't smiling for the camera, I was smiling because, for that one moment, I had stepped out of the noise. I had found stillness. That photo, that was me. The real me. I traced the edge of the picture and whispered under my breath, she's finally coming home. And then, just when I thought the story had ended, a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, there he was. Not Gabriel. Jackson Bishop. Gabriel's cousin. The one who told me the truth. The one who broke the silence no one else would. He stood there in a denim jacket, holding a book in one hand and a tiny box of raspberry truffles in the other. Before you slam the door, he said, I come in peace. I stared, caught off guard. What are you doing here? He held up the book. The little book of Reykjavik. I saw your post, he said. Figured I'd help with the research. That, Anne. I wanted to say something. I stepped aside, letting him in without even realizing it. He didn't look like a man with an agenda. He looked like someone who understood exactly what I'd just been through. I don't know if this is the right time, he said as we sat down across from each other. And I'm not trying to be another guy in your life asking for space he doesn't deserve. I just wanted to say, I'm glad you spoke up. You reminded me that it's okay to break tradition if it means saving yourself. I didn't know what to say. So I just smiled. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a photo. A candid shot from the party. Me, walking out with my back to the camera, light in my hair, my head held high. You didn't see this one, he said. But I did. And I thought you should have it. He stood to leave, pausing at the door. If you want to talk before your flight, I'm around. Then he left. And I stood there, holding that photo in my hand, heart beating like maybe, just maybe, life had one more surprise waiting around the corner. Sometimes, the hardest thing isn't walking away from someone. It's walking back to yourself, without guilt, without apology. And sometimes, once you do, the world opens up in ways you never saw coming. If you've ever had to choose yourself when the world expected you to stay quiet, drop a purple heart in the comments. Let's show each other that healing, truth, and self-worth are never too much to ask for. And if Skylar's story meant something to you, hit that subscribe button. Because the next one might be yours.